What do you want from me? I'm just blood and flesh and bones. I'm not an answer.
Welcome to Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, the show where the Office of Military Affairs keeps you mildly entertained and more or less up to date on what's going on at UNCW. Your hosts are Joanna DeMott, the Military Liaison and Program Coordinator, and Melanie Nelson, the Military Student Services Specialist. Hey, Joanna, how are you today?
You know, I'm great. That's how I'm feeling today. I'm pretty great. I'm back to it. I tried to switch up the adjective, didn't work for me, so I'm great. How are you, Melanie?
I'm likewise great. It's, the day before classes start, people are dropping by, things feel, normal-ish. Not really, they don't feel normal, but it's okay.
Normal-ish, I like it. I'm super excited about our guest today. Jeff Janowski, the Photography Services Manager, is here with us today. How are you today, Jeff?
I'm doing great as well, because there's not many adjectives out there that make me feel as great is.
I'm telling you, it's the way to go. I understand. What is your work situation now? So right now you're not on campus, you're at home, but what is your work situation now? How has it changed?
Oh, straight to it. All right. So yes, you are correct. I'm teleworking from my house. But all the stuff that I do is on campus still. So it's kind of like having an office off campus, and then I'm always driving into work, which before was I was driving into work and then staying on campus all day and then going home like everyone else. Really, the big thing that has changed for me, probably before pandemic, my job was probably about 85% events that were happening on campus. And believe it or not, UNCW is a happening place, or was at least before the pandemic. I mean, there was events happening every single day of the week. And it kept my department going from 8 a.m. until about 9 p.m. that like every night. Like there's something going on every night that I had to figure out how to schedule and how to get a photographer there. That has changed drastically because all the events are virtual now, and you can take a Zoom picture of so many things without it making it look like it's the same picture. So we're always coming up with different ways to visually tell the story of what's going on. And now during the pandemic, we created a pretty cool mosaic for the new class that's coming in, the class of 2024. And we've asked all the students to send us a picture of themselves to add to that mosaic. And I thought it came out pretty well. And that's going to be their class portrait. Like before the pandemic, our class portrait was to put, what are the usual freshman classes, like around 2,000 kids nowadays? So roughly the freshman class would stand in front of the Randall Library, and I would stand on top of Randall Library, and I would take a big group picture. And then every year we would have that as their class portrait. So this year was the mosaic, which I thought was very creative. And I will give the transitions program coordinator, Natalie Pizmino, I'm going to muck up her name, but she's the one who came up with the idea. So kudos to Natalie.
Super creative, really cool mosaic, and then the ability to kind of scroll over and see your face bigger if you'd like to. And then going and looking for people too is kind of cool to see your friends and maybe your new friends, people you haven't made friends with yet. But yeah, it's a really, really cool way to kind of, we are missing that picture. And I know that you probably had to do some death-defying acts to take it. And we appreciate that. But, I picture a trapeze, but probably not. That wouldn't be safe. Probably no, that would not comply with OSHA regulation. But death-defying. I can see you, climbing up there. But yeah, that mosaic is cool. And that is a really awesome idea. I can't imagine trying to figure out how to tell a story. I've taken some pictures for social media, and it looks like the same picture of me in front of a group of people on a computer. It's not very interesting, for sure.
Yeah, it's a little tougher nowadays, but we're working through that, and there's actually a lot of research going on still on campus and off campus, and to dealing with the coronavirus and with how the community is dealing with not only the virus but the stresses of the pandemic. You know, teleworking from home and having kids there and doing all that stuff. So there's a lot of ways that our faculty, our professors, our departments are kind of dealing with that stuff. And so we're kind of keeping a thumb on that. And I have gone out, made house calls to a couple professors while they're having classes and stuff like that to get their pictures. I've done some interesting shoots on campus so far that I can't really talk about yet because it's still ongoing.
Well, we'll definitely keep an eye out for those, and we'll make sure that all our 7 listeners have links to those in the future. I am going to turn you over to Melanie for some really important questions that we just have to know about you, Jeff.
Uh-oh, here we go.
These are very important, but first, 2 remarks. Number 1, did you say class of 2024? We are getting old, people. We're just, whoever's listening, we're all getting older. It's a thing. 2024, my goodness. And then also, we thought we were really clever in the Office of Military Affairs because when we moved into Veterans Hall, we set up the perfect photo background. And it's the same in every photo. And you know what? We're going to do the military thing where that is okay. And it is okay not to be creative about things. And we are just going to keep taking photos in that exact same spot. Thank you, Lady Liberty. Moving on. Jeff, what have you been snacking on during this whole pandemic season?
That's interesting because before the pandemic, I was eating more vegetables than I was literally trying to eat vegetables more so than not. I'm not going to say I went vegan or anything like that, but the idea was I tried to find recipes that were vegan, like maybe 2-3 days of the week. But during the pandemic, it just, everything went to heck and back. Now, as far as snacking, I'd still stay pretty healthy. I'm not a big snack guy. If I'm snacking, it's like trail mix or oranges or bananas. My job is I'm always on the go. I'm very energetic. So I need a lot of sugar, and I will say coffee. I've noticed that I go to the store and I'm always looking for as much coffee as I can buy that's on sale. Because me and my wife, we literally probably go through 3 pots of coffee a day between the 2 of us. I even think that we drank so much coffee. My 6-year-old daughter, now 7, she just turned 7 this past week. She literally wanted to taste my coffee. At 7 years old, she had to taste it because we drank it so much. She even remarks on the smell of it now, but I guess that's another story. So I would say trail mix and coffee is what I snack on.
Very good fuel sources, frankly. Yeah, I was wondering because if you're running around to events all the time, I would probably just snack nonstop. I would just have like the snack bag strapped to me and I would just be constantly pulling out snacks. But I like how you were, vegan-ish and now maybe vegan less,
Yeah.
less of a vegan-ish person. That's pretty common to what we've been hearing from people. And in terms of the coffee, are we sure that's healthy at that level? 3 pots a day for 2 people. That sounds like a lot, but I'm not here to judge.
I have seen research that can prove you wrong.
There you have it. That's all we have to say in the academic context. There is research. Studies have shown. Okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. So you're sort of teleworking and you're actually probably finding it very inconvenient, I imagine, to be like running home in between, or you're on, like your balance is probably all just off. But what we've been asking people is what or whom do you not miss right now? Maybe while everybody else is teleworking.
Oh, interesting. So what do I not miss?
What do you not miss?
So the great thing about teleworking is the time spent in the car getting to campus and from campus, because get there around 8 o'clock and everyone else in Wilmington is trying to get to their work at 8 o'clock and everyone else is trying to get home at 5 o'clock. So just getting off campus or getting on campus at those times is something that we learned to live with. But now with teleworking, you wake up, you put on a nice shirt, and you keep your PJs on the bottom because no one sees your bottom pants, right? So you just have a nice shirt for Zooms, and you wake up, get that cup of coffee, and sit in front of your computer. And that is your commute. It's awesome. Beautiful. I would say that's probably number one thing that the benefit of teleworking from home is that. The second one is, even though it's at times it gets a little wacky, but hanging out with the family. It's kind of like you get those moments in the day where you're kind of all, your projects are kind of there, you're waiting on emails, so you don't really have much to do, and then you go hang out with your number one daughter or your number one wife, and you just kind of relax in the backyard. I don't want to say I like jump in my pool while I'm working, but there's sometimes that you just got to stick your toes in,
Just so our listeners know, there is a beachy background going on Jeff's Zoom background here, which brings me to my next question. I imagine that you, like many of us, have been spending a lot of time on Zoom, or at least more time on Zoom than you would have pre-pandemic. So what are your pet peeves on Zoom?
I didn't even know that Zoom existed before the pandemic. I was like, what is this thing? How come we just don't do like Google or, Facebook Live or something? But Zoom came around and here we are. What was the question?
In the midst of this philosophical musings on how society in general has changed, what are your pet peeves on Zoom, which is a far pettier and smaller scale question, I believe.
Pet peeves on Zoom.
You can tell us. It's okay. We're not here to judge. I mean, we're judging, but it's fine. You'll recover.
I honestly, I don't really have any pet peeves. I actually do like when unexpected guests arrive, because it makes for a livelier, it makes for a livelier comments and interaction afterwards. It gives you something to talk about. I guess I will say the pet peeves is like you're in a meeting and you're trying to come up with some creative stuff, and not everyone is participating type thing. And it almost makes it easier to not participate since you're on the Zoom stuff and your microphone's on mute and all that stuff. It almost gives you a reason. And that's a little hard. And I will admit that I've done probably that a couple of times myself too, but at the same time, it is kind of a little annoying and distracting. My wife came up with an idea, or she heard of an idea to have everyone just keep their microphones on, because there's no muting during an actual meeting, right? So there's always going to be those kind of like outside sounds and voices and this and that. So just let it happen. And she gets more participation that way in her Zooms. So it's kind of a cool idea. I like it.
There's no muting in regular meetings. Yes, well, except for the internal mute feature, right, where you really shouldn't have said that. You shouldn't have said that. That's what I'm thinking of. No, but that is a good idea. And I actually like that for, all these classes that have gone online or that are hybrid, where students are having to join in via Zoom. Yes, there are moments when it's going to be better for everybody to be mute, because actually one of my most recent pet peeves is people dialing in and then like half the people are muted and half of them aren't. And then the screen is flickering and like it's jumping back and forth between speakers. It's very aggravating. So I think you have to be kind of specific about, okay, now we're brainstorming and everybody go ahead and unmute and we're just all going to join in, versus no, I'm talking now. and I
Yeah.
want to not be distracted. Interesting. I do like how you claim at first. Sometimes people do this. They're like, I don't have pet peeves. I'm a super happy, positive person. And then the next thing you know, they're bringing it.
Yeah, exactly.
So one more question for you. If you had to telework for the rest of your career or do this combination thing where you're not really like based in the campus office, pandemic or no, if you had to telework for the rest of your career, what would be the most important things for you to keep in mind?
A schedule. Schedule is like during this pandemic, you're balancing family, work, and for me, I have a daughter in school, so education as well. And all of a sudden, you have to not only work 8 hours, but you have to keep your house clean, or you can say your office clean. Like before, you didn't have to worry about too much of the cleaning of the office because we have a department that takes care of that. You always have to kind of keep in mind of the other people that are working in your office, i.e. your wife, your children, all that stuff. So everything gets all mixed and muddled. So your schedule gets way out of whack. Like I give 8 hours for my job, but it's usually not from 8 to 5. It could be like from 6 in the morning till 10 at night. But there's 8 hours that I actually do work, that I make sure that I'm working. And then the other times is like I will be teaching my kid classes and I'll be helping my wife out. I'll be cleaning the house. I'll be doing all this stuff. So keeping track of the schedule is a tough thing and a time consuming thing. That is definitely something. And honestly, I think if anything's going to come out of this pandemic, it's going to be that. It's going to be learning how to multitask everything that you do in a timely manner. And all this technology that we're using right now, we're just going to be more comfortable with it to be able to use it for all our stuff, which, you know, is it good? Is it bad? Who knows? But it's becoming part of our lives now. It's kind of like, is TV, is that good? Is that bad? Like when I watch my daughter like zone out in front of it, I'm like, oh, that's terrible stuff. But at the same time, it's, you know, is it good or bad? That's all I got to say on that one.
All right. Again, deep philosophical musings from a very simple question. But no, that's a really good point that scheduling and coordinating, it takes time. Like it's emotional labor and logistical labor all on its own just to keep up with everything that's going on. And when you're, you know, trying to coordinate who has access to which computer when, and who's streaming something that is causing everybody else's streaming things to go down, and all this stuff, like it's a lot. It's a lot of burdens on people. And I think Joanna and I were having a conversation with someone earlier today, and they said, you know, a little bit of grace goes a long way these days. And we have to apply that to ourselves too when it comes to scheduling and everything. As again, I think about our students getting ready to come back halfway on campus and halfway in the virtual world, and how are they going to manage it all? Who knows? Tune in for more information. So that was all my hard-hitting questions. Joanna, you got anything else?
Just a couple. I know we're on a time crunch here, and I appreciate all the things we're doing to schedule all the things in our lives during the day for sure. If you had to say, what is like your favorite part of your job, Jeff? Your favorite thing that you do?
Meeting people. It's one of the reasons why I became a photographer. Is I was very curious on how other people live and manage their lives. In my early days as a newspaper photographer, I had a chance to live and photograph people from all depths of life, from like homeless people all the way up to the president, and everything in between. And it's just the moments that you don't see people outside of the spotlight. That's the cool parts. Like when they almost forget you're there, but you know, you're still witnessing them doing their stuff. That's the stuff I like to see, because it not only makes me realize that we're all human, but we all make mistakes and we're all trying to do better, regardless of who it is and what they're doing. You always have those moments off camera that are kind of telling.
Excellent. That's really cool. I don't know if I ever thought about that as a photographer, that being one of the things. I thought it more of a creative thing. So it's really interesting to hear about your passion for learning more about other people. What are some misconceptions about what you do?
It depends on who I'm talking to at the time. A lot of people think that I'm just an event photographer. A lot of people think that I'm just a portrait photographer. Like I just take the headshots on campus. A lot of people, especially people off campus, they don't realize it's everything. It's architectural photography, it's people photography, it's studio photography, marketing photography. I shoot items and other little things. So it's and photographers will understand this, but it's the idea that I almost have to know a little bit about every type of photography out there in order to do my job. It's like when you're shooting architecture, it's a completely different mind space. It's completely taking pictures of people. And then when you're in the studio, it's all about lighting. So it's like paying attention to detail when you're doing that. So it's very all encompassing. And a lot of people don't realize how hard that is. I'm not like trying to float my own boat, but it is really hard to know a little bit about everything about photography to get the job done.
And we've seen you in action. You went straight from shooting our office, the people in our office, to the actual facility there in just a moment. And the pictures were both really, really cool. So we appreciate that skill, and I hope our 7 listeners understand that now. What would you like our listeners to know, all 7 of them? Any upcoming events or changes in your services?
Changes in my services. The one big thing is, as for portraits, I do professional studio headshots for all staff in faculty. Before the pandemic, I would hold monthly sessions where anyone could walk in, and they'd usually end up waiting around with 20 other people as I kind of file through them, taking pictures of each. I can't do that now because of the Best for the Nest stuff. So everyone has to get signed up for a scheduled session, which they're half-hour sessions. And I try to set them up for every Tuesday morning. If you would like to have a portrait taken, go to my website and or the photography website and sign up. It's an automatic scheduler, and it'll put you right on the next appropriate Tuesday that you need. I could give you the link and all that stuff, but I'm sure you guys could provide that in the comments, right?
Absolutely. We sure can. We'll put that in the show notes. Is there anything else?
Just be good, have a lot of grace, as you say, and if you're out there, come say hey to me. I'm always willing to talk to anyone out there. Oh, of course, at a social distance nowadays.
An appropriate social distance.
That's right.
That. I want to thank you so much for coming on with us today, Jeff.
Thank you guys for having me. I always enjoy talking to you guys, and you guys have a beautiful new space at Veterans Hall. I hope your 7 listeners come by and check it out, because it's awesome.
I hope they come check it out too. Thanks again for joining us. And this has been an episode of Mildly Entertaining at UNCW, and we will see you on the internet.
Thank you for listening to Mildly Entertaining. Our intro music comes from the band Blue Turnip and their song, What Do You Want From Me? You can find their EP, Songs from the Root Cellar, on Bandcamp, iTunes, Amazon, and Spotify. For more information, you can go to blueturnipmusic.com.